Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we crack open fascinating ideas and pull out the hidden gems of insight. And today, well, we're asking a question that might just flip your entire understanding of reality on its head.
Oh,
Yeah. What if the universe wasn't built primarily on matter and physical laws, but on something far more fundamental, something that actually begins with you? We're diving into an idea that radically redefines our understanding of existence.
that's right. For this deep dive, we're going to explore psychokinesis PK, but not in the way you might typically think of it, like a rare, almost magical stage trick.
Right, not spoon bending necessarily.
Exactly. Instead, we're looking at it through a lens where it's a universal principle, a fundamental force shaping the very fabric of everything around us, from the smallest particle to, well, the largest galaxy.
Our mission today is to unpack a truly thought-provoking perspective, this concept of a consciousness-first universe.
Mm.
We'll be drawing our insights from a recent article titled Psychokinesis, The Hidden Loom of Reality by Mark from psyhacking.com, published September 1, 2025. And this isn't just an interesting read, it's a challenge to rethink our most basic assumptions about what is real and how it's created.
It definitely is. It pushes the boundaries.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The traditional view, the one most of us grew up with, and that underpins much of scientific thought, sees consciousness as a byproduct.
Right. An emergent thing.
Exactly. It's a flicker, kind of an emergent property on the stage of matter, arising from the incredibly complex dance of neurons, synapses, chemical reactions in the brain. Essentially, the brain creates consciousness. That's the standard model.
And that's precisely what our source article flips completely. It proposes that consciousness is primary.
Primary.
Yes. Not a result,
Yeah.
but the primordial source from which all reality flows. So in this framework, the universe itself isn't some fixed independent stage where consciousness then appears later on. Instead, it's simply a canvas upon which consciousness expresses itself. Matter doesn't exist independently. It emerges from this foundational awareness.
Wow.
It's a profound reversal, really, from what most of science currently assumes about the mind-matter relationship.
So if consciousness is truly primary, meaning it comes before matter, then how does that reframe our understanding of, well, the very stage on which all this expression takes place? I'm thinking about concepts as fundamental as time and space.
Right.
Does the article suggest they're also products of this primary consciousness?
Absolutely. From this perspective, time and space aren't inherent objective properties of a fixed external reality.
Mm.
Instead, they're seen as frameworks that consciousness itself creates to organize its experience. Think of them as like the grammar or syntax consciousness uses to structure its perceptions.
Okay, like organizing principles.
Exactly. And it goes even further. Even causality, that bedrock idea that one event strictly leads to another, that gets reinterpreted too. It's not seen as an immutable property inherent to matter. It's viewed more as a reflection of conscious intention and the way consciousness organizes sequences.
That's fascinating. So if everything springs from consciousness, and even time and space are internal constructs,
Yeah.
where does psychokinesis fit into this grand design? Because, in the traditional view, it's often dismissed as, well, not real, or at best, an unexplained anomaly.
Right, that's the standard response. But what's fascinating here is that in this consciousness-first universe, psychokinesis is no longer an anomaly. It's not a paranormal curiosity that scientists struggle to explain or reproduce.
It's not the outlier anymore.
Precisely. Instead, it becomes the fundamental mechanism by which consciousness orchestrates coherent patterns across the entire universe. It's the very act of consciousness making things happen, manifesting reality.
Okay.
The article describes it as the hidden loom beneath the fabric of the cosmos, constantly weaving reality into being moment by moment. It's not a trick, it's the engine.
The hidden loom. I like that analogy. It suggests an active, continuous process, not just a static creation. And this consciousness-first lens, it dramatically changes how we perceive even the fundamental forces we just take for granted every day. Things like gravity, electromagnetism.
The big ones.
Yeah, and even the strong and weak nuclear forces, which we see as the bedrock of physics. Does the article suggest these are also like echoes of psychokinesis?
Precisely. It challenges us to imagine them not as independent entities governing an inert material world, but as direct manifestations of PK in action.
So gravity, for instance.
For instance, gravity isn't simply the curvature of space-time, as Einstein beautifully described it.
Okay.
The article suggests it's, and I quote, the patterned pull of organized consciousness, actively shaping clusters of matter into coherent structures like planets and galaxies.
Oh, okay. hold on.
It's consciousness itself, in a sense, intending that gravitational attraction and cosmic structure into being.
That's a radical shift. So instead of masses just attracting each other because space-time is curved, it's a conscious organizing principle that pulls them together.
That's the proposal, yes.
And what about electromagnetism? We're talking about everything from light to electricity and magnetism governing so much of our observable world. How does PK reinterpret those?
Electromagnetism, those familiar interactions, are interpreted as resonances within the conscious substrate.
Okay, conscious substrate. Let's unpack that a bit.
Right. So if you think of reality not as empty space, but as this foundational field of consciousness that's the conscious substrate, then electromagnetic waves, photons, fields, they're like ripples or vibrations within that field.
Ah, I see.
They're described as visible fingerprints of deeper psychokinetic alignment, expressions of consciousness vibrating at specific frequencies, creating the light and energy we perceive.
So the substrate isn't empty space, it's this field of consciousness itself. And the forces are like communication or expression within it.
Exactly. Imagine the universe not as a collection of separate objects in empty space, but as a vast, interconnected field of fundamental awareness. That underlying field is the conscious substrate.
Okay.
So when we talk about electromagnetism, we're talking about the dynamic resonant patterns that emerge within this field of consciousness, creating the interactions we measure. It's a living, vibrating canvas, not a passive, empty stage.
And it even gets down to the truly fundamental level, doesn't it? The strong and weak nuclear forces, those incredibly powerful stabilizers of atoms that literally hold everything together.
Preventing chaos.
Right, preventing chaotic disintegration. How could psychokinesis be at play there?
Even at these smallest scales, the article proposes that these forces can be seen as psychokinesis, operating at the smallest scales, enforcing coherence in otherwise chaotic systems.
So like an active stabilization.
It implies an intelligent, organizing principle that doesn't just passively exist, but actively maintains the integrity of matter at its core. It's a constant psychokinetic act of stabilization.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and maybe the most challenging part for our conventional understanding. The implications are huge. The very laws of physics, which we often consider rigid, independent, immutable rules governing the universe fixed since the Big Bang, they get reinterpreted.
They do.
The article suggests they are emergent, reliable patterns that are ultimately produced by psychokinesis. So not pre-existing rules, but habits. Habits of consciousness.
That's it. That's the core idea. They're not pre-written commandments etched into the universe. Instead, they're persistent, reliable patterns that consciousness continually manifests through psychokinesis.
Like a habit.
Exactly. If you think about it, habits are patterns repeated so consistently they become almost automatic. From this perspective, the laws of physics are essentially very, very old habits of consciousness.
Habits that have been so consistently reinforced.
That they appear immutable.
Yes.
Which brings us to a mind-bending possibility. If they are habits, could they, theoretically, be shifted or repatterned over vast spans of time?
That's a truly profound claim. But, okay, for many steeped in traditional science, the idea of flexible physics laws might feel unsettling, almost arbitrary.
Understandably.
How does the article address the apparent stability and consistency we observe? Why isn't gravity changing tomorrow, for example, if it's just a habit?
That's a crucial question. And the stability isn't dismissed. It's explained by the consistency and the collective nature of this psychokinetic alignment.
Ah, the collective aspect.
Right. If consciousness is a vast, interconnected phenomenon, then its fundamental habits are deeply ingrained and consistently maintained on a massive scale. It's not about an individual's fleeting, thought-changing gravity.
Okay.
It's about the deep, collective, ongoing consensus of consciousness that forms the stable reality we perceive. The article posits that these patterns are incredibly robust, precisely because they are so widely and deeply established within that conscious substrate.
So, if psychokinesis truly underlies reality like this, it's doing more than just generating forces. The source identifies it as the generator of structure, the stabilizer of apparent physical laws, and also the mediator of information flow across scales.
From subatomic up to galactic formations.
It's truly the invisible hand guiding everything.
It's the unifying principle. Think of the universe as a kind of self-calibrating system. Reality provides feedback to consciousness,
Okay.
which in turn shapes further manifestations through psychokinetic influence. It's a dynamic, interactive loop. Creation informs the creator, and vice versa, in an ongoing dance.
So every interaction, every observation potentially refines reality.
That's the idea. Every conscious act potentially refines and reinforces this emergent reality.
The article uses a wonderful analogy to help visualize this, likening the cosmos to an orchestra.
Right.
Psychokinesis, then, is the unseen conductor subtly shaping every note and instrument.
Exactly. And in this cosmic orchestra, gravity forms the harmony, electromagnetism establishes the rhythm.
And the nuclear forces provide the percussion.
Precisely. Each one is a distinct pattern, yes. But crucially, all emerge from that deeper conscious principle guided by PK. They're all expressions of the conductor's intent, the underlying conscious will, rather than independent sections just playing their own music.
And if that's the case, even the apparent solidity of matter isn't an accident. It's presented as conscious stabilization on a massive scale.
It's not just there, it's actively being held together moment by moment. That's right.
So the regularity of cosmic patterns we see, planet orbits, star formation, that reflects consistent psychokinetic alignment, not just mechanics or chance.
That's the interpretation.
Yeah.
It implies an incredible level of ongoing active organization by consciousness rather than mere mechanical inevitability.
Okay, but what about unpredictability? We see a lot of chaos and randomness in the universe too, and certainly novelty. How does this consciousness first view account for that? Is it all part of the design? Or maybe grand improvisation?
It's framed as potentially both, in a way. Even random fluctuations, chaos, or novelty are viewed as variations in conscious expression.
Ah.
This introduces both unpredictability and creativity into the universe. It's not a rigid, deterministic system. There's always room for new patterns, new forms, new expressions to emerge from the conscious substrate.
Like the conductor allowing for variations.
Exactly. Think of it as the improvisational genius of the cosmic conductor, allowing for unexpected turns and flourishes.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. One of the big hurdles for psychokinesis in its more traditional scientific study is its elusive reproducibility in experiments.
Right, the consistency issue.
It's often incredibly hard to demonstrate reliably in a lab. If it's this fundamental force, this engine, why can't we just make it happen on command every time?
The consciousness first framework actually offers a compelling explanation for this very challenge.
How so?
It suggests that PK doesn't obey simple mechanical laws that you can just brute force or trigger like flicking a switch. Instead, it aligns with the organizational principles of awareness itself, meaning it's highly sensitive to subtle factors like intention, belief, the state of consciousness, even the collective awareness of those involved in an experiment.
So you can't just isolate it like a chemical reaction.
Exactly. It's intertwined with the very consciousness trying to measure it.
So this implies experimental design needs a complete shift. The article posits that researchers must move from brute force manipulation to attuning with consciousness itself. What would that even look like in practice? How do you attune with consciousness in a lab?
Well, it's a profound shift, moving away from purely objective, materialistic methods. The article suggests it might involve creating experimental environments that foster states of, say, deep meditation, focused attention, or collective intentionality. Instead of trying to force an effect, you're trying to create the optimal internal and external conditions for psychokinetic expression to emerge more naturally.
So cultivating a state of awareness, not just pushing buttons.
Precisely. It's about the state of the observer, or the collective observers becoming part of the experiment itself.
That's a fascinating paradigm. The source suggests several intriguing avenues for future research if we adopt this perspective. One is exploring subtle PK effects, not just in individuals, but under conditions of focused attention or collective intention.
Yes.
Can you give us a hypothetical example? What might that look like?
Certainly. Imagine a research team, instead of just one person trying to influence, say, a random number generator.
Right.
The whole team collectively focuses their intention, perhaps after a period of deep meditative practice, on a specific outcome for that generator.
Oh.
Or, even bigger picture, studying large groups engaged in shared intentions, like global meditation events, and looking for subtle but statistically significant shifts in physical systems or environmental data that correlate with these moments of collective focus.
Interesting. And another avenue is looking at quantum phenomena,
Yeah.
like superposition and entanglement.
The weird stuff.
The really weird stuff, where a particle exists in multiple states at once until observed, or particles remain linked no matter the distance. The article proposes reinterpreting these as psychokinesis-mediated informational alignment. How would that work?
Well, traditionally, these quantum mysteries are described as inherent properties of the quantum world, with observation playing this strange, almost magical role.
Right.
This new interpretation suggests that it's consciousness, through psychokinesis, that is actually facilitating or mediating this informational alignment. So instead of particles just being entangled mysteriously,
Yeah.
it's a subtle psychokinetic connection that allows them to share information instantaneously, maintaining coherence even across vast distances. It implies PK is the underlying force connecting these quantum mysteries, the unseen thread.
So PK is the mechanism behind quantum weirdness.
Potentially. That's one avenue to explore.
Researchers might also examine macroscopic echoes in nature, biology, or cosmology. What kind of patterns are we talking about there? What statistical regularities could suggest this underlying organizing principle?
This is about looking for patterns that can't be easily explained by conventional physics or biology alone. For example, in biology, maybe unexplained regularities in cellular organization, or the synchronized behavior in large animal groups like flocks of birds or schools of fish.
Things that look coordinated beyond simple rule.
Exactly. Or in cosmology, perhaps subtle alignments of galaxies or large-scale structures that seem to defy purely gravitational explanations. It's about looking for statistical anomalies, consistent non-random patterns that hint at a deeper organizing influence.
A subtle psychokinetic influence we've overlooked because we weren't looking for it this way.
Precisely, because the framework didn't allow for it.
The goal, the article emphasizes, isn't necessarily certainty in a traditional sort of Newtonian scientific sense,
Right, not absolute proof in the old way.
but pattern recognition, exploring how consciousness interacts with matter across all scales, from the subatomic to the galactic. It's about seeing the bigger picture, the connections.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this radical vision of a psychokinesis-driven cosmos means that you, the observer, are not passive.
Right. This is where it comes back to us.
Your intentions, your perceptions, every act of your awareness, it ripples through reality. You are an active participant, not just a spectator, watching the cosmic drama unfold.
So psychokinesis is the mechanism, consciousness is the agent, and the universe is the evolving manifestation of their interaction. It's this profound feedback loop.
Everything connected, constantly influencing everything else.
It means we're not just living in the universe. In a very real sense, we're continuously shaping it, co-creating it.
Which then raises an important question for you, the listener. If psychokinesis, driven by consciousness, shapes reality, how might collective human intentions actually influence the cosmos?
What impact are we having right now?
Exactly. With our shared beliefs, our collective fears, our focused aspirations, whether they're positive or negative, it gives a whole new weight to our collective state of mind, doesn't it?
It really does. Could consciousness become a tangible tool for fundamental change in physical systems? Could our awareness be the key to altering what we perceive as fixed, like physical limitations or even aspects of the reality around us? It almost makes you think twice about, complaining about Monday morning.
Well, maybe not individually shifting the orbit of Mars, but
Yeah.
yes. The potential implications for collective influence are staggering.
And perhaps the most mind-bending question proposed by the article is this. Are the laws of physics merely persistent habits of consciousness rather than immutable truths?
That's the big one.
Are they just ingrained patterns of awareness that could theoretically be shifted or repatterned over vast spans of time? It makes you wonder about the true nature of fixed reality. What is truly fixed?
It challenges our deepest assumptions about what's solid and unchanging.
So what does this all mean for us? It means we're potentially in a universe where mind and matter are inseparable, where every thought, every intention leaves a trace, and where psychokinesis is the hidden loom behind every structure, pattern, and phenomenon.
Which means we are not merely observers.
We are, in a profound sense, co-creators of the reality we inhabit. This deep dive has really taken us on a journey exploring this radical idea of a consciousness-first universe, where PK emerges as the fundamental organizing principle, and even gravity and electromagnetism are its macroscopic echoes.
It's a truly paradigm-shifting perspective, Invites us to look at everything with, well, new eyes.
Reality in this model is far from a fixed and inert stage upon which life just plays out.
Not at all. It's participatory, creative, dynamically evolving, deeply intertwined with our own awareness, constantly being woven and rewoven by consciousness.
It makes the universe feel much more alive and responsive than we typically imagine.
Definitely more interactive.
Our role, therefore, shifts dramatically, from mere passive observers to active co-creators, constantly interacting with and shaping the cosmos around us, whether we realize it or not.
It certainly gives new meaning to the old phrase, mind over matter.
It absolutely does.
And maybe consider this for your own exploration. If consciousness continuously interacts with its own emergent creation, how might cultivating greater awareness in our daily lives, maybe through mindfulness, focused intention, or even just more conscious thought, how might that actively contribute to shaping the reality you experience, even in subtle ways?
It might just be the most powerful tool we possess, something to really think about.
All right, we're diving into some really mind-bending stuff today. We're looking at a source that pretty much challenges the ground beneath our feet, the very way we think about the universe. It suggests there's this hidden principle, this hidden force making everything tick. So yeah, let's get into it. So the material we're exploring today just kicks the door down with this one huge question. What if consciousness isn't just a little accident that happened inside the universe? What if consciousness is what the universe is actually made of? Let's try to unpack what that even means. But first, to really get how wild this idea is, we have to quickly remind ourselves of the story we all know, the standard scientific model of how our universe works. Right, this is the story you and I were probably taught. You've got the Big Bang, you've got matter and energy doing their thing for billions of years, and then, way down the line, on this one little planet, brains get complicated enough that, poof, consciousness just sort of happens. It's a story where matter comes first, always. Okay, but the source material we're looking at today asks us to take that entire story and just flip it completely upside down. It says, what if we've got the starting point all wrong? And here it is, side by side. You can see how totally opposite these two views are. The old story says matter creates consciousness, but this new story, the one we're exploring, suggests the exact reverse. Consciousness is the source, and matter is what emerges from it. In what you could call a consciousness-first universe, reality isn't like a giant clockwork machine. It's more like a thought or a dream, happening in some kind of cosmic mind. The physical world that we can touch and measure, that's not the base reality. It's a manifestation, an expression of that deeper consciousness. So you might be asking, okay, if consciousness is shaping reality, how does it do that? Well, the source redefines a word you've probably heard before, psychokinesis, or PK. And no, forget bending spoons or anything you've seen in the movies. In this model, PK is the fundamental creative engine of the cosmos. It's the process by which consciousness actually weaves the fabric of reality. And this is where the idea really forces you to rethink, well, everything. All those fundamental forces of physics we learned about. In this model, they aren't the ultimate cause of things anymore. They're actually the effect. Just take gravity, for example. We think of it as mass bending space-time, but in this new view, it's seen as the patterned pull of organized consciousness, gathering matter into shapes like stars and planets. Electromagnetism? Not just particles pushing and pulling, but more like a vibration, a resonance happening in this field of consciousness. And those nuclear forces holding atoms together? That's just psychokinesis working at the tiniest scales, keeping everything stable and coherent. To make this all a little easier to picture, the source uses this really beautiful metaphor. It says to think of the universe as a grand cosmic orchestra. And in this amazing orchestra, psychokinesis is the conductor you can't see. Gravity? That's the deep, slow harmony holding the whole structure together. Electromagnetism? That's the rhythm, the pulse of light and energy. And the nuclear forces? That's the tight, fast percussion holding the very beat of matter itself. And it's all being guided by this one single principle. So here's the absolute kicker. In this view, the laws of physics aren't these unbreakable, rigid rules set in stone. They're more like habits. They're the reliable, consistent patterns that show up because the underlying consciousness, the conductor, is consistent. Okay, that's all huge cosmic level stuff. But what does it mean for us, for you and me? Well, if any of this is true, it completely changes our role in the universe, from just being spectators to being something so much more. This is the big shift in perspective. If the universe itself is conscious, and you are a little piece of that consciousness, then you are not separate from the act of creation. You are an active participant. You're a co-creator of reality. According to this model, that means every single thought you have, every intention, sends a little ripple out into that cosmic field. The very act of you looking at something isn't passive. It actually helps shape the thing being looked at. Your awareness in this framework is a real force that leaves a mark on the universe. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds incredibly profound, maybe a little out there, but it raises a massive question. How in the world could you ever prove or even test an idea like this? The source actually tackles that head-on. Exactly. That's the whole problem, right? If PK isn't some predictable mechanical force that you can measure like gravity, then trying to poke it and prod it with our usual scientific tools is probably going to fail. It's not playing by machine rules because it's not a machine. So, the article says, we need a new approach. So the proposed new method isn't about trying to force a result. It's about attunement. It's about creating conditions of focused collective intention, and then looking for the subtle patterns. It even suggests that we could start looking at weird quantum stuff like entanglement, not just as spooky physics, but as evidence of consciousness aligning information across space. The whole game shifts from demanding certainty to recognizing patterns. And really, this brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole perspective. If this model holds even a shred of truth, it means we aren't living in a cold, dead, indifferent universe. We are part of a cosmos that is fundamentally aware, a reality that listens, that responds, and that is in a constant creative dance with us. So we're going to end on the same profound question the source material leaves us with. Are those fundamental laws of physics the bedrock of our reality? Are they not unbreakable rules, but just the deeply ingrained, persistent habits of a universal consciousness? It's a staggering thought to sit with.